All right, all right. Let's see here. We got people coming in, coming in. Great to see everybody today. I gotta fix one small thing. There we go. There we go. I'm Ed O'Keefe. I work directly with Dr. Scott on everything growing um, our opportunities to help you grow your stem cell clinic, your practice, whether you're a chiropractor, functional medicine doc, podiatrist, wellness clinic. The ability right now to take advantage of the regenerative medicine boom has never been greater. And I just want to share with everybody before Scott gets started here. The We just came off a fantastic 1 day intensive in Tampa, where there was about 16 clinics, team members, and we walked everybody through the entire system. Some of it, which you're going to see today, and it's just we're just getting phenomenal results for people very, very quickly. And Dr. Scott will actually share how one of his clients, I think, did. I'll let him do it, but multiple seven figures in stem cell sales, and it's something they're doing that's super predictable. It's ongoing, and we're now helping practices in local spaces and clinics do the same thing. One quick element that I just want to set Dr. Scott up for is when you look at things today, when you look at the four pillars, you're going to see a couple things. One is most people are frustrated over lead quality. We'll show you how to fix that and the quantity of leads you get. The other thing that is a common thing we've heard is I'd rather do 30 adjustments than do 10 free consults that end up in nothing in a day. And we're not going to show you how to do 30 adjustments. We're just using that as an example. And but one of the big things that came out of this is when Dr. Scott showed how he gained absolute freedom from ever having to do a sales workshop ever again or a consult, and was able to elevate himself and go from one clinic to 8 clinics. And so we're going to cover that all today. Now, quick announcement. I just want you to look at your calendar. The next live intensive is April 23rd. Do I have that accurate, Maggie?
Yeah.
Yep,
Yep.
April 23rd in Tampa. The only downside of that is that's 2 months away, or a little under 2 months away. So either way, mark that as on your calendar, whether you are someone who's just looking at that to learn more, or you're already a client of ours. Either way, we want clients and non-clients there for that day. And then without further ado, I think if you have to run before we open up the call for questions, you can go ahead and message Maggie directly, Maggie Williams directly, or post in the chat your specific question, and we'll get the recording out to you. But this is really our goal here: is teach for a little bit, share some breakthroughs, and then open up the line so that you could ask specific questions of challenges and bottlenecks that you're currently facing. Cool? Cool. Who's excited? I'm excited. Cool. With that said, let's bring on Dr. Scott Gray.
Awesome. Thank you. I appreciate it. And thank everyone for jumping on the VIP call today. Excited to share how we're helping offices, probably just like yours, and show you how you can really start to scale your business. And what you're going to find in this is that it's really about doing less, finding leverage, focusing on the right things. We're going to dive into all that. So I want to show you how you can add 25,000 to 100,000 a month to your cash collections, and that's going to make a lot more sense as we move through this. So today, what we want to accomplish is showing you the best way to grow and scale the business quickly for the actually getting an ROI on the marketing that you're doing. We want to give you the tools and really the nuance that you need to create these lasting systems in your business to be able to scale. And we're going to, well, ethical propaganda we may not get into today. That's something further down the road, just probably a little too much for this call. But I do want to share insider tips on what really creates scalable, powerful systems and just next steps for launching your sales and marketing system with your team, and show you how we can help you if you want us to help you with that. So the first thing that I want to talk about which a lot of docs don't like this stuff because we're very science oriented. We're very focused on the research, the data, et cetera, and certain business systems and whatnot. But the reality is that our offices only grow as much as we grow and where we come as a leader into a business. And one of the things that Ed and I were talking about at that event was we're talking about Tom Brady, and we're talking about how Coach Belichick was so hard on Tom Brady, harder on him than anybody else, and they're on the team with New England because he knew he could take it. He knew that he would take what Bill was saying and he would take it as good constructive criticism and create the right actions to get the results that they want. And so when he came to Tampa, I'm in Tampa area, Tampa, Florida. When he came to Tampa, he came here, he had the off season, and he turned that team into a Super Bowl team literally overnight. So what happened there? And then they didn't win. He had the next year, he's going through divorce and his mind was not in the right place, which actually makes a lot of sense for how they did the next year. But if you look at it, then Baker Mayfield comes in and he talks about how toxic the environment was, right? Well, here's the reality is that Baker wants to go in and have fun and do all this stuff, but he's not willing to put in the work. He's not thinking right. Tom knew that he had to be hard on people. He had to focus on the right things to get the results that he wanted. He did not have a toxic environment. He had a championship environment. And so if we want our office to be a championship office, we have to think about how we're actually thinking about the things that are happening to us. So my mentor said to me one time, Scott, you can tell me you have a great attitude, you have a great mindset, you've worked on your inner game, you're exactly where you need to be. But if your results, if you don't have a 10 million, 20 million, $50 million business, then your results are not showing that you have that all together. And so this comes down to self-honesty of what am I thinking when I gather information? How does it make me feel? And what actions am I taking because of that? Because I had to totally change how I thought. And I'm going to go through that here in a second to change the results that I was getting. And, a lot of this comes from talking to our peers, and people are saying, nobody has any money, the economy's bad, people just want to use insurance, da da da. Those are just things people are saying. But when we hear those things, we get to decide, yes, you're right, or no, you're wrong. I refuse to believe that. I know that guys are crushing it all over the country, and like that's not accurate. So you ignore that. So as you go into the day, as you go into a seminar, as you go into your consult, you're not thinking, this person probably doesn't have the money. This person probably can't afford this. I think they're just going to want to use their insurance. That's the kind of stuff that we have inside of our heads. It's like that inner voice that we are fighting. And so what we need to do is really work on our mindset as to how we're accepting and processing this information into what we actually think is possible. Because, my first licensee that I did this with, they now do, last month they did over $4 million. That's last month. So, people can take this information and do amazing things with it. But there's also docs who take my information and do nothing with it and get no results and say that it sucks, right? So what I'm just going to say at the beginning here is that all I'm going to share with you today is what we've done, how it works, and the results that we've gotten. And you can say, oh, this guy's, I don't jive with this guy. I don't understand what this guy's saying, da da da. Or you can say, how can I use something out of this seminar to improve my practice? Like, what is one thing I can take from this? And I know that if you're looking for one thing, two things, three things, you are going to find those in the talk today. So come in with an open mind and give it your all. I'm going to give this my all, you guys, and help you really understand how to simplify and grow your business. So the first thing I want to jump into is just what I've been talking about, and that is how we think. We need to think like an owner in our business. These two books changed my life. Cash Flow Quadrant by everyone knows Rich Dad Poor Dad with Robert Kiyosaki. This is one of his books. And then the E Myth by Michael Gerber. So if we look at Cash Flow Quadrant, we in that book he's got a little quadrant there. He shows that on the left side there's E and S. That is employee and self-employed. And on the right side you have B for business owner and I for investor. And most of us that have practices, we think that we're business owners. We think we're entrepreneurs, which I'll get into with the E-Myth. But the reality is, if we have to be there, we are self-employed and nothing happens unless we're there. You're never going to scale that business. You will never become a big business if you have to be there doing everything. And I had to start, thinking about, okay, what do I need to replace? Who do I need to get in here so that I don't have to be there every day and I can work on higher level activities? And the E myth is the entrepreneurial myth, same thing. They basically share a story of someone who starts a pie shop because she made great pies. Well, the reality is, 6 months later, a year later, she's realizing that she has to still get up at 4 a.m. every morning, bake these pies. And if she doesn't do it, nothing happens in her business. And she can only bake so many pies, right? So her business is never going to grow past her own capability. So one of the things we have to realize with the owner's mindset is in order to grow your organization, you have to be okay with the 70% version of yourself in a given area. So the reality is nobody is going to love your business more than you love your business. So no one's going to, give the effort that you give for your business because it's yours, it's your baby, right? But the reality is if we get someone that we say is a 70% version of ourselves, especially if it's in sales, usually they're going to be better than us as far as a doctor or an educator. There are people that love that. They're amazing at it. And this is what I found out is that when I started replacing people, I was okay with the 70% version, but if you find the right people, then you have a 150, 200% version that's doing much better than you would, and you don't have to be there and you're working on growing and doing the other things for the business. So that bottom line is actually should say, or lie to yourself, keeping the business real small and grow only to your limit. So you don't want to have your small mindset keep your business small. If you want to grow a business, you have to figure out the owner's mindset so that the decisions you make come through that, right? So it's like I was saying with that little guy at the beginning, when stuff comes into our head, are we thinking as an owner and an investor in our business, or are we thinking as a clinician and as the technician in the office that has to do everything? Okay, so I'm going to talk about how we can change that mindset to grow your business. So this is all about leverage. Okay, so leverage is compacting time and money. So everyone's heard of the Pareto principle, the 80-20 rule. We know that 20% of what we do creates 80% of our results. Well, the reality is in that you've got your 80 and your 20, and inside that 20, there's another 80-20. And inside that 20, there's another 80-20. And if you keep chunking the numbers down, you're going to find that 1% of what you do creates 51% of your results. So 1% of what you do creates over half of your results. So what is the small effort that we need to do in that one area that will give us huge results, right? It's about focus. It's about what are the force multipliers, right? Finding the force multipliers in your business where you put a little effort in and you get a huge output on the back end. Okay. And I'm going to show you that's the 4 pillars. The 4 pillars are the force multipliers. So jump ahead a little bit for you. So we want to figure out how you can do the least for the biggest return. So, and if you look at the bottom, that's about people. Who's on our team? Do we have some random person we're trying to teach how to do sales? They don't even like sales. They're uncomfortable. They have money issues in their head. Or do we have a professional salesperson that this is what they live for? This is what they do. Our thinking, I already went over that. How are we thinking as a leader? The reality is, in our business, your business will never outgrow your self-image. Okay? So if you see yourself as I'm just going to have this little practice and I'm never going to do what that guy does or that girl does or whatever, your thinking has already negatively affected you. So we have to expand our thinking, expand our ceiling about what's possible and realize, you know what, I can do that. I'm just not focusing on the right things. I'm not focused on the force multipliers that are going to get my business where it needs to go. So again, we'll get into that. And systems is a huge part of that. Where I'm going to show you the system that we use to get the results that we do, those processes, how you position, pricing, obviously, and innovation is a huge thing. So this is the difference between effort and scale. Okay. So this is how we can compound our results with the littlest amount of effort. Okay. So Walt Disney's my favorite business person. And I learned leverage first from Walt in reading his book. This is actually a movie that I'm producing right now. This is actually going to be on Disney Plus soon. We produced a movie on Walt and his whole plan to create a community of tomorrow. But I want to read this for you. This is just a quote from Walt when in one of his biographies where he talks about what he does. And so, I was stumped one day when a little boy asked, "Do you draw Mickey Mouse?" And I had to admit, I don't draw anymore. "Well, then, do you think up all the jokes and the ideas?" "No," I said, "I don't do that." And finally, he looked at Walt and he said, "Mr. Disney, just what do you do?" And he said, "Sometimes I think of myself as a little bee. I go from one area of the studio to another, gather pollen, and sort of stimulate everyone. And I guess that's the job I do." Right? He's totally downplaying what it takes to be a great leader. What Walt did was find the best people in the world, put them in the right place, and he just went around from office to office all day long when he was building Disneyland, when he was doing movies like Snow White, Cinderella. He would go around and just make sure that everything was going according to plan. So, and I'll show you how you can do that in your practice as well. If you are trying to do everything, you will not grow anything significant. If Walt was trying to draw Mickey Mouse and do the voices and all that, how big would Disney have ever become? And guess what? That was a mental thing of Walt. If Walt said, "I have to do this, I'm the best animator, I have to do the voice, I'm the best at the voice, Mickey Mouse is my voice," then he never would have grown it to where. So the difference between what Disney became and where it started was all in how Walt thought, because he thought like an owner. He thought like someone that wanted to scale. How can I do the least amount to get the biggest return? And so I don't know if you guys have seen this before, but this is actually Walt's diagram of the Disney company that he drew in 1957. So if you see all of this, you've got theatrical films, merchandising, TV, music, Disneyland, comic strips. There's no way he could do all of that. So what did he do? He built this out, and this is a more simple way to look at it. And he built out all these teams. And then he went around to all these different teams, made sure everything was connected and going well. And that's how he was able to scale to what it is today, $100 billion plus company. So what I want to talk about is the power of subtraction. I want you to understand you're not going to grow by doing more stuff in your office. That's what everyone tries to do. Let me add this thing. Let me add this thing. I need that new product. I need that new service. I need that new piece of equipment. Like, no, absolutely not. Because the trap over on the left-hand side is by adding more. That's why most people don't grow, because they overcommit, right? And then they just get busy doing everything. And what that looks like with Walt Disney would be, he would be busy animating and doing voices if he just wanted to do more and add more characters and whatever. In our office, it's doing notes, it's doing, seeing patients, doing consults, going out and doing talks, running the marketing. If you're doing everything, that is busy work that is taking up your time and taking away from you being able to actually grow your business. And when you're doing all of it, stuff gets left out, systems don't work, it breaks. And so that's where stress comes from. Stress is overwhelm, right? And that's what most of us have done. It's what I did for years, is I would just try to keep doing more, 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 and it just became more stressful. And the results weren't changing. It's like I hit a ceiling and it wasn't going anywhere. So what I found out is that if I prioritized the 80-20, actually the 51-1, right? The 51% comes from 1%. What's that 1%? What can I focus on that's going to grow my business? And then I delegate the rest out and do it in the most simple way possible. And so the structure that we've created is the most simple way to grow your practice. And it basically lays out your priorities so you know exactly what to do and what to focus on. Okay. So let's jump into that. So systems are important to scale your business. We don't scale businesses, systems do. If we try to do this without a system, it will be chaos. It's a mess, right? Systems will create clarity and intention made permanent, which is very good for your team because one of my favorite quotes is if it's foggy in the pulpit, it's cloudy in the pews. Okay. So we have to have clarity for our team. Most of our teams don't even know what our goals are. They don't know, what are we trying to hit this week? What is our 3-year vision? What is our mission? How are we going to change the world? And so many people don't know that. And when you have systems in place, it helps to give that clarity and intention of what you're working to do and what you're working to accomplish. And when you do that, your team can get excited. When it's foggy in the pews, people can't get excited because they don't know what's going on. With systems, that's when you can get growth and freedom. So this is what the system looks like. So I've created this over the last 20 years of growing practices. Like Ed said at the beginning, I had a chiropractic practice, then a Regen practice, then I opened another Regen practice. We've had the marketing company, and then moved to Florida, opened up 8 more practices, helped some other guys open across the country. And in doing all of that, I created this system because if I was trying to wing it with every office, it became a mess. And so we put this in place. So these are the 4 pillars of you growing your practice. These are the force multipliers to grow your practice. So I'm going to dive into each one here. So lead flow. Obviously, this is one of the biggest problems doctors say when we talk to them is I don't get enough leads or I don't get right? I don't get enough qualified leads. So what we found is in doing marketing for hundreds of doctors is that I could do marketing for a doctor in one part of Texas and I could do it for another doc 100 miles away in Texas, and one doc crushes and the other doesn't, right? It's just like I said at the beginning, there's a lot of mental stuff in this as far as what you're bringing to the table. Some docs say, I can do this. This is great. People are going to buy this, etc. And we've got others that don't think that. And so they have the exact same system, exact same ads, exact same people coming through, but for some reason, one closes them and the other doesn't. And so this is where I actually started to second guess having a marketing agency because this is what marketing agencies do. They give you lead flow. They don't do any of the other 4 pillars. And the problem is, no matter how good you are at this, even if you have an amazing marketing company that's getting you great people or lots of leads and your talks are filling up, if this is the only thing that you're doing, everything is going to stop right after that. Okay? And I'm going to show you the math on this in just a second. It's quite alarming when you see the math on how this works. So obviously, this is about targeting the right person, writing the right ads, right? Testing, optimizing, retargeting. That's the ethical propaganda that we talked about that we won't get into detail today. But in doing all this, we've spent 20 years figuring out what to say, how to say it, who to talk to. And we do over 100 talks a week with our groups out across the country. And so we've got this down. But here's the thing. If we do that and we don't do the next 3 stages, we would be in a lot of trouble. So the next pillar, right? So once you get lead flow good, if you're getting lots of quality leads, lots of leads, that's great. Pillar number 1 is done. Okay. Number two now, what are we doing after we get that lead? Are we communicating with them within 5 minutes? Are we filtering them to make sure they know this is not covered by insurance, that they're going to pay cash for this, that all the different questions that we ask, because our goal is to get 100 leads and only let 30 of them come to the talk, right? Only have the most qualified people sitting in front of you. And most people either aren't contacting people or they're just letting everybody in. So when you do that, you have less qualified leads. You got a bunch of people that, just want to use their insurance, right? And you can totally negate that ahead of time. And we've got some tricks, so to speak, that just tactics that we use to make sure they show up. And so, like, we had one doctor who just started with us, and he changed three things in his talk. One of them was he used our engagement system to get people to show up. He was having about a 40% show rate with his seminars before working with us. He implemented the exact system that we used to get people there. The next seminar, he had 100% show up. The next seminar, he had 90% show up. And he said, we closed so many more people using this system than we ever have before because of how we filtered them at the beginning. And so think about this. If you do all the lead flow, but then you don't contact them right away, so you're going to lose leads. You don't say the right thing, so you get people there you don't want. You have people coming for different things that aren't necessarily what they're there for. So you have less people show up and less qualified people show up. Obviously, that's a huge problem. So you can get all the leads you want, but if the engagement is not right after it, you're screwed because they're not showing up at the talk, right? And we need them to show up at the talk for the next part to take place. Okay. So once they show up, we get past engagement. Now we're in conversion mastery. So I've taught this for several years, probably like 10 years now, and that is having the perfect presentation. And we feel like we've created that because we've sold, honestly, I don't know the number. I think it's over $200 million in regenerative medicine with this one talk that we give our clients. And doing the presentation right, using this right stories, doing it in a way that you are not telling them to change their mind, but they are changing their mind on their own. They're naturally through that process getting excited about it. And what I say about the perfect presentation is one of my favorite stories is the George Foreman grill. So if you've heard me say this before, I apologize, but I love this story because it's so true in how this works. So when they first did the George Foreman grill, they hired George and they promoted it as like knockout king, heavyweight champion, all that kind of stuff. Well, the reality is nobody cared. The people he was selling to didn't care that he was heavyweight champion, didn't care that he had a lot of knockouts. All they cared about was that grill and how that grill worked. And so what they do with infomercials is they actually watch where their sales come in. They can see like 3 minutes and 25 seconds, we had a boost in sales, right? 8 minutes in, we had a boost in sales. And what they're noticing is every time George was cooking or eating, sales would spike. So they just kept putting more and more of that in. And the George Foreman grill went from literally a complete failure, losing tons of money, to selling 120 million grills. When you have a perfect presentation, all you have to do is get more people to that perfect presentation, right? Get in front of as many people. Once they figured out the infomercial, they're like, we need this infomercial on 24/7 because we know if people watch it, they're going to buy. That's what a perfect presentation can do for you, right? And then the next part of that is the seminar close. I have a specific close, some of you may have heard it, that I've used for years. And I actually got it from another salesperson that I took it and modified it for regenerative medicine and what I do. And that was another thing that the guy added. When they did the talks, he got the 90% there and the 100% there. He did the presentation and he added the close. And he said they literally booked twice as many people as they normally book at a seminar. We just got a text from a guy last night that said, hey, the only thing I added to my talk was the close, and I just booked 10 out of 14, right? So having the perfect presentation and doing the close right can move them to the next stage. So again, let's go back. Lead flow is good, great. Engagements is good, great. We get those people there. We can't have it stop at the seminar. We got to get them to move to a consult, set up an appointment, pay for an appointment to come in and do a consult with us. You can see if your presentation's not good, if you don't have a good close, they're not going to move any further. And now you've wasted all of your money on the dinner, on the advertising, on everything. And so the money's just gone. But if you're good, then you move them to the next stage. And the next stage is doing the consult. And I have what I call the 180-degree consult, basically get them chasing you as opposed to you trying to sell people, right? Because that's not what it should be. So it should be you basically qualifying them and them chasing after you to want to do it so bad that you're just trying to figure out how to make it happen for them. Okay. So, and if you don't do that right, if the staff isn't on point, if there's money issues, if there's prejudgment of, oh, this person's never going to be able to afford it. Oh, this person wants to use their insurance. Again, mental game, guys. This is a mental game that we are all playing, and it comes from us as the leader. We are the only ones that can share this clarity and share this mindset of how we are going to operate, the world-class standards we are going to have in our office of how we do these things. And I'll tell you, if you do these four things, literally, let's simplify your business right now. You want to grow revenue. How do you grow revenue? Sales. There's nothing else you should be focused on. You shouldn't be, setting up all kinds of other stuff. And honestly, pick one thing. Like we've always kept it simple of we're just going to focus on stem cell, right? And for this talk, for this ad, for this thing that we're doing. And so if you can do hyper focus on one thing, become the best at that, master this system at that one thing. And then once that's good, then you can add another thing. Don't try to do four different presentations and I want to do, functional medicine, neuropathy, Regen. Just pick one thing and become great at it. Become great at something before you move on to the next thing. So if you do lead flow, engagement, perfect presentation, close, and consult, if you become a master of those four things, your life is going to get a lot easier. And the last thing that I did, that second part there, the bottom half, the presentation, close, and consult, when I really got freedom in my office, when I started hiring case managers, presenters, salespeople, whatever you want to call it, I got people that were way better at that than me. They could focus 100% on that. All they did was study their presentation, study their close, study their consult. And they could be 100% focused and be getting great results while you're focused on other things, whether it's treating patients, hiring new staff, booking the next restaurant, planning the strategy for your business, the things you should be working on as a business owner, right? This is business owner mindset. This is not technician, I need to do everything mindset. This is how do you become the Walt Disney of your corporation where you're just moving around. You guys doing good at that? Doing good at that? Need my help? What can I do? How can I make that better for you? What resources do you need, right? Making sure everyone has what they need to do what they do. Okay, so I've kind of beat that to death. Let's go through the math on this a little bit. What does this look like? How could this change your practice? Well, if you look at the math, if right now you're not getting the amount of leads or qualified leads that you want, if you could tweak that and get just twice as many leads, okay? So you're getting 30, now you're getting 60, okay? And now when they engage, instead of getting 40% to show up, let's say you get 75, 80% to show up, you get twice as many. So now we have twice as many leads and we're getting twice as many of those leads, of the bigger number of leads to come to the dinner. Now our dinner's full. And now that we do a perfect presentation, we double the amount of people we get to the consult. And then we go to the consult and we close twice as many people as we did before. You do those four things, you're at 16x the results. This is exponential. So the old way of doing things, hiring marketing agencies to pump a bunch of leads into your practice and not having any of the other stuff down. Let's say we get 64 leads, 25% show up, 25% book appointments, 25% buy. We just spent a bunch of money on a marketing company, on a dinner, our time, and we made 7,500 bucks. What a waste. But if you actually focus on these four things, and that's it, and you nail these four things, and you get 50% to show up, you get 50% appointments, and you get 50% sales, you made 120,000 instead
I
of
do as a
7,500. What's that, Ed?
I, keep going, buddy. You're good. Good.
All right, great. So you can see the difference, you guys. Like, this is why so many people are focused on the wrong thing.
Hey,
If you
Scott.
have these
Hey,
four things
Scott.
going, yeah,
Hey, the only thing I was going to mention was the phrase you said at the event was you can never be world class at anything if you're too busy doing too many things. And I think the one thing we just want to make sure everyone understands is you went through the path of doing too many things, and so your numbers here is a reflection of you getting crystal focused on this one system.
yep, yeah. And so many people want to add this thing, add that thing, add this thing, add that thing. I say, no, what are you doing and what do you want to grow? And let's focus on growing that to $1 million a year. And once you're there, maybe you want to keep going and get it to 2 million, but then you can add something else. Never add other stuff until you're killing it in your primary offer and your primary thing that you do. If you're not killing that, everything else should have a back seat right now. You should not be doing anything else but fixing the system that has a predictable system that it goes through because you focused on all the right force multipliers. And you can see 7,500, 120,000. I think all of us know what we want. And if we can kind of step back out of the minutia of the daily fires and all that crap, and we focus on the stuff that really matters, that's when you can do this. And revenue solves a lot of problems. Guess what? You can now hire a higher level office manager. You can hire someone to help you with X, Y, and Z. Like, once you get revenue up and you've got this system, all of a sudden now you can start to build your practice the way that you really want to, getting great people on board and continuing to grow it. Then you can delegate, and that's when it expands, like you saw with Walt Disney. That took lots of years, right? I mean, he started Walt Disney, the Disney company in 1923. That was 34 years later, that chart that you saw. It takes time to put it in, but you can nail one thing really fast, like literally 30 to 60 days, and your life can be completely different with this. So that really is the system that we run. And so where this came from was back in 2019, actually 2018, I met some guys and I really decided I wanted to go all in on getting a salesperson, getting them to go out, do the talks, do the consults, and I don't have to do anything, right? And so I trained them on the talk, I trained them on the consult, got them exactly where I needed them on that. And so we hired them, trained them, filled the rooms, presented, set the appointments, went to the closes. And our goal for that first week was 60,000 in sales. Okay. I mean, that would have been really good for what I normally did with my normal sales expertise that I have. And honestly, like, so I'm an introvert by design and who I am, but I learned to do presentations. I learned sales. I mean, you can see behind me is like all those books are all sales and marketing. And so I became obsessed with learning this stuff, but it's not in my DNA. And I realized that I'd never be as good as the guys that's in their DNA. So we did this. This was my goal. We ended up doing 175,000 that first week. And I was like, oh, this is way better. Like, this is 3 times what I did. This dwarfs anything I've ever done in the past. So in 2019, we launched that. And in 2019, the first year, we did over $11 million. All of a sudden, I went from $1 million practice to an $11 million practice. Like, boom. It was just insane. 2020, obviously crazy times. A lot of stuff happened. Seminars got shut down. Still did over 10 million. 2021, still did over 10 million. And the reason I show you this stuff is to show you that this system works. Again, I'm not telling you anything here that's like, well, I hope this works. I hope you guys, there's a lot of people teaching stuff that don't do it. I've given over 1,000 presentations myself, and we do about 100 talks a week, like I said. So what I want to talk about now is, so Ed and I found something very interesting at the talk, at the event that we did in Tampa. And I talked about this whole system. And what happened was all of the guys started coming to us and saying, the men and women both, saying, can you just get me a sales guy? Right. And I actually had my salesperson there. So I've got one guy that hires all my salespeople for everyone that goes around. And we do it through a group called Objective Management Group out of Boston. But what we've done is we've built a specific profile based on our best salespeople we've ever had, people that are doing $100,000 to $200,000 a week in sales. And so we run people through this system, and we take about 200 to 300 applications to find one salesperson. And so what we're doing is we're now helping doctors to implement that in their practice. And that's what we call it, the $1 million cash sales system, because I'm going to show you the numbers here in a second. Each salesperson should be able to add $1 million cash to your practice each year. Okay. And so that's what we did. Like, I basically found out, dang, the more salespeople I have, the more I can grow my business. And so I created a system with that, with this gentleman he's been in the sales world for 40 years. And we built this so that now he hires all of our sales guys. And so we're helping doctors to do that as well by just hiring, training, managing, getting them in their office. So what does that look like? I'm just going to go through that a little bit here, and I'll finish up on that and then jump into a Q&A with everybody. So this was another thing I learned. And the reason that I found this guy to help me hire people is when I first started doing this, I'm like, sweet, I'm going to get a bunch of salespeople. And so I started hiring anybody and everybody. And like, oh, you said you can sell? You sold cars? Great, come on. Hey, you did this, you sold it, you sold phones? Great, come on. And it was so painful because it's like I would have my 2 to 3 guys at the beginning that were killing it, and then I'd have 2 to 3 guys bomb. And so all that marketing, all the dinner cost, I would actually pay to have them travel, like whether it was flights, hotel, and I would lose all my profit because of those bad salespeople. It killed me. And what I found is that I started doing the math. If you hire the wrong salesperson, you're wasting all your money on marketing. Whatever you're paying them is down the drain. The hiring costs, I mean, it costs easily 15 grand plus to hire a salesperson if you're going to do it right. And then opportunity costs. It's all the sales you didn't make, right? You were making 7,500 instead of 120,000, and you lost a crap ton of money, right? So I figured this out real fast because it was very painful. And then we got much more, you know what they always say, like hire slow, fire fast. With sales guys, that's it. I mean, you need to go through 200 to 300 of them to find a good one. And so once you do that, then now you know that you can actually implement this system with confidence and success. So what we do is we work with talent acquisition and profiling, find the right people for our doctors in their area, and then we get them the presentation. We train them on the presentation. We role play. We work with them daily. We continue to get them up to speed for your office based on what you do. We fine tune the presentation to your office and everything that you do. And then we have the management and oversight. And so one of the things that we do is we meet with our salespeople every week. And so they would be able to come into our environment of where we train all of our salespeople, and we are training them and holding them accountable to get results. Okay? Because the worst thing you can do is hire a great salesperson and then don't give them support. That is also a recipe for disaster. So what it looks like, if you're looking to put a salesperson in your office, this is kind of a timeline of what it would take you to do that. So using the scientific hiring process that we use with Objective Management Group, OMG, it takes 1 to 45 days typically to find a killer. And so that is the initial part. Once we find them, that's when we're doing intense role play. We're daily. Salespeople need intense training right at the beginning to really, just immerse them in everything to get them ready to go. And then we start looking at, hey, let's launch the first seminar, get that planned, get that all set up, and then we get everything set up so that that salesperson can go do that and do your consults. And then obviously after that, managing and making sure that those salespeople are doing what they need to. You guys have probably all gone through a slump of some sort, whether it was in practice, sports, whatever it may be. What's always the problem with a slump? It's our head. And you'll hear me say this a million times. You can tell I'm a mindset guy because, again, Walt Disney would never have built Disney the way he did if he had a small mindset. We have to take responsibility for the fact that our business is only as big as we're letting it be. Our ceiling will determine the size of our business and what information we decide to accept and what information we decide to repel. So you can decide, you get to decide on your own. Am I going to accept all the naysayers and all the people that aren't making money? Or am I going to go talk to people that are killing it and say, okay, I don't see how that's going to work. I don't really understand it, but I'm going to figure it out because I think I could do better than you could, right? So that is the mindset of this. And, with salespeople, we have to keep that mindset up because look, every week's not going to be perfect. We always tell our sales guys, you may have a bad week here or there, but you're never going to have a bad month, right? Because those things happen, but then you're on them the next week. Let's watch the presentation. What'd you do wrong? Let's change this. That's where you get real scale because you can focus on those things and we focus on those things with the sales guys to make sure that they're going where they need to go. But you guys, just to take this all down, and I kind of go through the weekly trainings and different things that we do. We can take all that time away from you. And like I say right here, most sales hires fail within 6 months due to lack of leadership. So you can get a killer and totally blow it up. And one of my mentors always told me, before you fire them up. Most of us are not firing up our staff. We are not training. We are not keeping them accountable. And that's usually why salespeople fail, is lack of leadership, lack of training, and lack of working with them. So we want to provide that leadership for our doctors so they don't have to worry about it. The salesperson's just going to be there in your area. They're going to do your talks. They're going to do your consults, and your hands off, right? That's real leverage and real freedom from your practice. And it's getting people that do it better, can exponentially grow your practice and make a difference. And so we have a program like this for doctors. Everyone always asks what it is. So what we do with this, our salespeople, we don't keep them around if they can't do 30,000 a week on average. Okay. So our goal is to do at least 30,000. The really good ones are doing 40, 50, 75 a week. Okay. So the goal is over $1 million a year per guy. And so if you look at the breakdown, a couple thousand for the talk, $1,250 for the dinner itself, $3,000 for product costs, depending on where you get it. All of our docs use Platinum Biologics. But look at the gross, 30,000 minus all that, 23,000 net revenue. And so what we do is we do a 70-30 split. So we pay the sales guy out of the 30%. We actually get commission-only salespeople. So you don't pay them anything if they don't produce. So we pay them out of the 30%, and then our sales and management team, we pay to do the daily role playing with them, the talks, keeping them going, reviewing their talks, and doing all that. So it's literally a plug and play into your practice, and you don't have to do anything, and you're just paying for the sales guy and the sales management team. And that's how our program works that we do for doctors. So that is the whole system. These are the pillars. If you focus on the right things, you can focus on one thing that you want to grow in your practice and go after that. Do a presentation on that, a close on that, a consult on that. And that's all you're thinking about. So you got your lead flow, you got your RSVP system, and then look, After when you start your ads, your number one goal is that RSVP system. The whole team should be focused on let's get these people there, get these people there. And then the presentation comes, like Monday or Tuesday, you should be, or the salesperson should be practicing over and over and over and over again because who would go out for the Super Bowl or a championship game and not practice? That's what most people do with these presentations. And I can tell who's practicing and who's not. I just look at the results, right? I can tell who's putting in the time and effort to do it because people get distracted by fires and all kinds of other stuff where the only thing that matters that day is that presentation and that close. That's where the growth is going to come from. And then when you go to the consult, you're not thinking about presentation, you're not thinking about RSVPs. You're thinking about maximizing that consult, being present, doing your thing with that patient. So that is a 30,000 foot view of the four pillars and how you can grow your office with hyper focus, doing less and making more.
Yeah, I love it.
So I think that's it. But Ed, what
Well,
do you?
yeah, we're not done with all of you though yet, especially if you came here to ask Dr. Scott a question. I think that's amazing. I'm gonna ask Maggie. Maggie, when you have a second, can you throw in the comments just a link to Tampa and then also just for everybody to understand too, we have a couple layers of support, and I'm gonna take 10 seconds to go through that. One of them is our membership, where you get licensing rights to use all the materials. Another layer is where we actually have our marketing team and our media buying team run the ads for you, but you do the presentation. And then what Dr. Scott just covered was if you actually wanted the ultimate freedom pathway, which is to have a sales rep there. You don't need to get there all at once. You can piecemeal it or step ladder it, and it'll be amazing for you. Okay, so now, Maggie, what I'd like to do is ask if anyone has specific questions about your practice and you, whether it's your blockages, whether it's marketing, lead gen, uh, confusion over AI, social media, all those things, you could go ahead and just raise your hand, and then Maggie will let you on, and you'll get to ask Dr. Scott your own question. And then Scott, we may this might be a good time to undo the screen or slide share, and then we'll highlight you on this one here. There we go. Okay, awesome, awesome, awesome.
Perfect.
So I see we have Denia, if I'm saying the name right, Mark, Brian. Um, and I have a question for you, Scott. If they're just kind of still waiting out there, is uh you the is anyone raise their hand yet?
I don't see anything yet.
I know you mentioned a little bit of like, why is it so important? Because a lot of times we'll hear people say, I've used media agencies and they haven't worked, and or I've spent money on social media and it didn't work. Um, from a, can you just kind of share with the group just a little bit about why targeting specific pains and then having a very low risk offer is really the magic is one part of our magic sauce. The other part is the propaganda, but really you can get very far just focusing on people's pain.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, so, you know, anytime in marketing, a lot of people get caught up in the product or service that they have, and they want to talk about how great their product is, how
Yeah.
great their practice
100%.
is, blah, 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 blah. Nobody cares about that. I forget, I don't know if it was Gene Schwartz, but it's, enter the conversation in the prospect's mind,
That's mine.
right?
Yeah.
So what's in their mind? My knee hurts. My
Yeah.
back hurts. I need
Right.
something other than what I'm doing. Nothing's working. I wish I could go to the store again without having to sit down. I wish I could walk my dog again. Like we have to enter that conversation and
Yeah.
yeah,
They're telling me that my only option after this is surgery.
yeah, yep. And
Um,
so we know all those questions in their mind, and that's the conversation. Those are our headlines. That's what we talk
Right.
about in our ads. We talk about them. We talk about what they're going through. We talk about why things haven't worked. And so when we do that and we have them, then they're raising their hand. They're saying, "Yes, my knee hurts. I need something different." Like that's a different lead than someone who's like, "Oh, I've always wanted to learn about stem cells. Oh, I've always wanted to learn about
Yeah. Yeah.
peptides," right? Then you get people coming in that are just trying to get information, not people that are hurting. So, that first part that you're talking about, targeting, is so important. And the words that you use on the ads determine who shows up at that seminar.
Right. That's right.
And most agencies don't, I know there's good ones out there, but a lot of people have probably said, I get people that didn't even have any pain, right? That person should never be at your seminar, ever.
Well, if I'm an agency and I'm trying to get like your phone to ring, I'm going to without having the experience that we have of just being around the like a patient attraction market and understanding there's a massive difference between offering, hey, free consult versus somebody who's like, did you have a hard time sleeping last night because of your shoulder pain? Question mark. We'd like to invite you to a free, I'm just going to say lunch and learn for this or free dinner where you can discover the new regenerative medicine methods that can prevent you from having, go to surgery is when you've been told surgery is your only choice. Something like that. The other thing I'd like to say is that most agencies are not usually condition specific and focused on, we spoke about this in Tampa and we talk about this on the mastermind calls every week, like the whole pathway of your prospect. And what I mean by that is it's easy to get a phone to ring. It's not easy to attract a high quality patient unless you know very specifically what you're talking about. Scott, I want you to address then why is one to many literally the beginning of the pathway to freedom for a moment?
Yeah, definitely. So, one of the things I always have said and what I experienced in practice was, I had a high volume practice for a while with chiropractic. And I always told people that if I could do 150 adjustments in a day and go home and feel great, right? If I would do 6 consults in a day, I was wiped out,
Yeah.
right? Because I wasn't educating them ahead of time. I was basically giving a presentation with
Right.
every single person, answering all these questions, and I was miserable. I was
Yeah.
exhausted. I wasn't who I needed to be for my family, for
Mhm.
my young girls. It's like dad is wiped out. But what I found that when I started getting people in rooms, do all the presentation, the consult should basically be nailing their one big objection and signing them up. Like if they don't buy in the consult, your presentation was not good enough. The presentation is designed to get them everything they need, handle the majority of objections. Of course, you may have one left over, but that's easy to do in the consult. And then the close gets them so excited and ready to do this that like they come in and you're with them for 15 minutes instead of an hour,
That's
right?
right.
And so
Right.
now you're just moving through. And guess what? You don't even have to do that. I had it to where, like, because I had an office in Ohio and I moved to Florida and just put a sales guy in Ohio. And he did everything. I did nothing, right? And so
Crazy.
I had that going. That's when I started the Florida clinics, when we built the 8 clinics down here and just started placing sales guys in each one. So it, first of all, it's personal exhaustion. It relieves you of that, the freedom from that, and the freedom to not have to, take all that time when there's other things in your business you got to deal with. Then
That's right.
you're trying to deal with business stuff after hours because you had no time to break away, et cetera. So that's what it is. You're going to cut down, take every 60-minute consult down to 15 minutes. And, really all you have to do as the doctor, if you want, is the exam and the diagnosis. That's really all you have to do. And that's a 20-minute exam and you're good to go.
And these are just so everybody understands, these are paid consults. These aren't free
Mhm.
consults. We don't offer free consults from the presentation, strategically laid out to set you up as the expert. Uh, Everybody who walks in your clinic is going to know the fee range of stem cells or whatever you're promoting, but specifically, we're talking about stem cells here. And there should be no sticker shock. There's none of those things. This is all the worst case scenarios. You have filtered out. One phrases we like to use is at the same time you're trying to attract people into your clinic, the presentation is also getting rid of 70% of the people that are not qualified so that you are not wasting an hour of your life multiplied by the 70%. Um, every minute that there's a presentation saves you, hundreds of hours in a year.
I
Um,
mean, there's nothing worse than doing 5 consults and
uh,
only closing 2 people, and you just gave that presentation 5 times that day.
Five times.
It's
Yep.
yeah.
Yep. And there's so many misconceptions on this. Now, I want you to talk about the next question that came up when we were in Tampa from one of our new clients. He joined, he's part of our mastermind and our licensing program. And by the way, I forgot to say that if you are interested in the working closer together, there's a link there that's regen-profits.com/invite. I highly encourage everybody. It's the interview that I did with Dr. Scott, going more in depth on his kind of his back history, like what pain led him to actually inventing the system. And then also, what you do is you put a deposit down. It's totally refundable if you decide that this is not a great fit, or if we decide that maybe you're not ready for this, or whatever there's zero pressure on how we operate. But that would get you on our calendar, and we would have a good conversation to see how we can best support you and what makes the most amount of sense for clarity, confidence, and increasing your profits an extra 50 or 100,000 a month. There was one gentleman that came through who we're going to speak to, I believe, tomorrow, that was his clinic's doing about 100 grand a month, and his concern was that we only work with newbies, and we're like, no, you don't understand. We have people that have joined the program because they're doing multiple six figures a month, and they want to see how they could even double that. So wherever you might be, it's more about your ability to invest and jump in and take this one-to-many system by the horns. Scott, unless you had anything yet, I have a specific question I wanted to throw in here because it goes to one of the gentleman's questions, one of our new members, great guy. His question was, what do you do? I do a lot of lunch and learns or dinner work seminars. What do you do about people that are there just for the free food? And Scott's answer about where to focus was great. But I want you to specifically address the quality, or no, if you want more quality, you have to increase quantity because that's a misconception, Scott. Can you just talk about it, please?
Yeah, yeah, definitely. I mean, it just makes sense. Quality does come from quantity. So one of the things that a lot of the marketing agencies do is like, hey, I've got you your 30 RSVPs, we're good to go. And then, they're hoping that half those show up.
Yeah,
Where we know that we need to get quantity to get you the quality that you want. So we're aiming for 100 to 120 leads per dinner to break that down to the 30 that qualify. So we're getting rid of that 70% that we don't want to show up.
right,
Now, will there be people there that people call them plate lickers or whatever? Very few. Very few because they've already gone through all the filters and we get quality people there by doing it that way. As opposed to, taking the first 30 that raise their hand and hoping they show up. That is the worst possible formula. And it's so simple, but most people don't do it because
right,
I think what happens is people say, oh, you only spent $200 on ad spend, or you only spent 800 bucks on ad spend. So this is great. It's like, no, I want to spend 1,500 bucks to 2,000 on ad spend so that everyone who shows up is a qualified person, because it took me 2,000 to get 30 good ones. as
Yeah.
opposed to spend 800 and hope some of those are good.
Yeah. So check this out, everybody. This is really important to understand. So we in at Tampa um laid out the math. And so we did this really cool exercise because one of our new members, Dr. Jeff, has been doing dinner seminars every month like clockwork. Scott talked to you about him. I think that's who you're referring to about with the he had the close, and
Yes.
he's having the best month he's ever had. Him and his son, just great people, super excited to be there. And he's like, I want to know how we can get to 1 million a month. And he's going to make it happen because he's just going to make it happen. That's what he wants to do, and he's got a system for it. But one of the gosh, please make sure I don't lose my train of thought there. One of the things that hey Scott, what was I talking about right before?
Jeff, oh, before that,
Right.
quality and quantity.
Oh yeah. So we did the math. No, the math.
Did the
Yeah.
math.
So
Yeah.
what we did was I asked him. I said, "Well, what is it? What is it on average profit per patient?" And this is super important for everybody to understand, like because let's assume this, like what Dr. Scott just showed you, all the numbers and the pathway. Let's just assume for giggles that his system works. Your next question is like, well, do I invest the time into it? And sometimes time is way more valuable than money, right? Because you're like, well, I'm busy already. And as Scott and I would probably point out, you're too busy, which is why you're not hitting the goals that you want. And we've already covered that, so I'm not going to hit that back. But now it becomes a money issue, right? Like our licensing program is 2 grand a month. Okay. For some people, that's a lot of money. Some people that it's like, well, what's the potential return on the 2 grand? If we're going to run your ads, you're going to be investing an extra, say a couple grand or give or take some, right? We're just throwing lump numbers up. Let's just say you're going to invest 5 grand a month in getting leads to your next dinner seminar. And Jeff said, well, okay, we had 100% show rate, which was double the amount than they've ever had. So instead of 15 people attending, so I want, if you're watching this, do me a favor, just grab a pen and paper, just write down 15 attendees versus 30. And he added now the close. So he added our RSVP to like get people enrolled. He used our service. And then he now has double the amount of people for the same amount of spend. This is so important. So his cost per attendee just dropped in half. So I'm going to use hypothetical numbers. He knows them off the top of his head, but actually, and he did it by two dinners. So one was at 3:30, one was at 6:30. Instead of the typical average being 15, he was able to get 30 and 30 at each of them. So that day they added, instead of 30 people total to attend, they had 60. Okay. Now, if you just do the math on that, and let's say they get on average a 30% conversion rate, okay, we're now looking at 18 paid consults to come in over 9 versus 9. So he just doubled the amount. So everything doubles. Scott already did the math. So forgive me, but I'm giving you like a real example of a brand new member who's having the best month of their that they've had in years. And I asked him on stage, I said, what's your average profit per patient? And he said it's around 4,500 bucks. That does not include referrals that are going to come from those patients. And that does not include if they decide to sign up for a monthly peptide or monthly supplement or a monthly continuity program. It doesn't include that. And then I said next, I said, how many of the patients that came in converted into like moving forward with treatment? And they said 100%. Now, we are not saying that you are going to get 100%. We're not going to say it. But on average, you're probably looking at 80 something percent because they've already gone through your presentation. They've made the energy investment, time investment, and commitment to being there. This is about the hottest lead as you could possibly get that's been vetted, triple vested. Just because he followed this system, let's say their investment was 5,000 bucks. I'm making that up. It's right around that range total with the dinners included. All of that, all in 5K. Um, they had, I believe, eight or nine had already said yes, and they still had eight or nine more consults coming in the following week. So if you go nine times 4,000, I'm going to bring it down. That's 36,000 net profit that week that they would not have had they just done nothing. Okay. And he's got a potential of nine more people that they're going to see. That does not include lifetime value. That does not include he's going to get better at the presentation. That does not include that they're going to do more of them. And it does not include that they're going to now have they have a system they can expand. And that doesn't include that he's probably going to get a sales rep or two or three over the next, 30, 60, and 90 days to start replacing his efforts. So now they're just treating patients and they got to worry about capacity issues. Scott, what am I missing?
No, I mean, like, you look at if they had 30 people instead of 60, and they, even if they have the same close rate,
Same.
like they're making, 10,000 instead of 36,000 in
Yeah.
profit, right?
Yeah.
And it's just, and they started in the middle of January, right? Like he started and he learned three things. It was the close, it was how to get people there
To show up,
to
right?
show up,
Yeah.
yeah, and then the consult, closing in the office.
Yeah.
Those three things is he just focused on those three things, and that's how he
Game
jumped
changer.
his results, like basically doubled plus more, actually more than doubled his results, his profit by implementing it super fast and using it at their next dinner that they had set up. So the reality is that this is not something that, if you're already doing talks, these are super simple add-ons. Like it's not, you don't have to change your whole everything. Like he implemented this in 2 weeks, right? So you
Get
can have
better.
this going
Better.
so fast. And if you've got talks out there, it's so I always tell people my close rate doubled when I added the close. When I added the close back however many years ago, it doubled my it doubled my close rate.
It's unbelievable.
So think about that. It's just like the guy that texted us last night that said he did 10 out of 14, and he never does that high of a percentage. He's like, this is insane. So if you have talks coming up and you just add the close and add the RSVP method, like you might double your results from that,
Yeah.
right? So
Yeah.
they're simple add-ons. It's not It's not rocket science. It's just we figured it out over the years through thousands and thousands of talks, and this is just kind of like a shortcut.
Scott, I think the other thing, and I know we're probably about running out over time here, but I think, it's this is great stuff. If you guys are enjoying it, if you have a question, you could still chime in. But Scott and I, we never speak. No, I'm kidding. We speak every day, but like we just love this stuff. But one of the things too is like the other thing that we're seeing as a pattern is that there's people that are coming to us. We saw this in Tampa with multiple people. They used to do talks prior to the pandemic, and they're like, does this stuff still work? Like
Yeah.
you right? Do you want to speak to that? I mean, I have a lot of thoughts on it, but I just think it'd be interesting to get your perspective on what your thoughts are on that.
Yeah, definitely. A lot of people just got worried from, the FDA changes, obviously all the dinners shut down. What happened was a lot of people just kind of went back into that old routine
Yeah.
and forgot about dinners, forgot about all that stuff. And a lot of folks are seeing laws change in Utah and Florida and different areas and stuff, and they're starting to say like, I might want to jump back into this. And so we've got guys that are jumping back into this now, and Dr. Roadhouse that we have, one of our guys that was with us a long time ago, he just stopped doing them. And then we started talking. He's like, Scott, I would love to start doing this again. So now he's booking seminars and crushing it again, and just launched right back into it. Just boom, just like
Yeah.
that. So it's a great way to jump back in. If you've done them in the past, you had some success, you put in this system, you'll have even more success with it. Again, if you just focus on those four things, we're trying to simplify this for you for total focus. And you do those things just like Jeff did, and you could double, if not more, your results from it.
Yeah, that's great. That's great. That's great. Um, yeah, very good. And then we have more people doing that. And the other thing is if you have more money than you have time, then you should just be like, jump in and then have us do it all. Like, which is we run your ads, we hire your sales guy for you. And when I first heard the idea of like, well, I hired a bunch of salespeople. When Scott told me that, like that's how he created freedom. We were talking when he was teaching me like how we've known each other for almost 20 years, but I didn't realize that the way he scaled was through sales reps, and then the way that his number one client is doing multiple millions a month is through trained reps. And then he talked to me about no, no, we have because I when I think sales reps, guys, I'll be very honest with you. Like, I get cringy in my stomach. Like, I do not want to deal with like uh sales reps negative anchor sales reps. But really, what I should be saying is, are these bad sales reps for me to be having that negative feeling? Because when you hear like that they how it's vetted, how it's based, it's modeled based on the best performers, and then these people are ridiculously incentivized to grow your clinic. It's just a total reframe on what the typical thought process of like, oh, you're going to hire a salesperson, like, right, Scott?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, that's the way to scale it. And the worst thing in the world is not vetting people and having a bad salesperson.
Yeah,
I mean that, and most people think used cars, like think of you now have a professional presenter and professional case manager.
that's a
That's
better way
what
of
it
putting it.
is,
Yeah, that's a better way of
right?
putting
This
it. Yeah.
isn't like, your used car salesman that's his shirt's untucked and, blah, 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 blah. Like these are super professional folks. So
Awesome. Awesome. Maggie, are we leaving anything out before we wrap this up? Let everybody go for the day?
No, I think we've covered everything, guys. Unless there's any last minute questions, feel free to raise your hands, but I think we're good.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, Scott, amazing presentation as always. And again, if you are interested in like just figuring out if this is the right fit for you, there should be a link below or a link in the comments. And we're looking for great people that want to grow, that we know we can help, that are already helping people. They just need to be more visible, more omnipresent, and get the right people in your area who are in pain that you can help in your clinic and do it in the most efficient way. So,
absolutely.
all right, Dr. Gray. Thanks everybody. Have an amazing
Thanks,
day.
guys. Have a good one.
Appreciate you.